I want to go ahead and get officially started. I want to welcome all you and say Happy Easter. And you know, Easter means different things to everyone, and depending on, you know, the God of your understanding, your belief system. And so what I'd like to do is just start this call by having everyone just talk a little bit about what this day means for you. And then we're going to talk about forgiveness. And Julie Ann is joining us here today, and I'll tell you a little bit about her. And she's writing a book on forgiveness. I know a lot of us have done work on forgiveness, and Colin Tippings is one of our favorite authors. Of course, he passed away, I think it was last year, and he did Radical Forgiveness, Making Room for Miracles. And you know, he's been one of my greatest teachers on forgiveness. And so I'm really looking forward to Julie sharing her views on forgiveness. So anyways, let's go ahead and just start by everybody. If you want to share what Easter means to you, just raise your hand and we'll get to everybody. Or yeah, raise your hand officially, or just do this. Okay.
Bernadette.
I'm trying to get my phone to balance.
Okay.
Okay. For me, Thanksgiving is all about being grateful for everything I have, whether it's
what about
the
Easter?
good, the bad. Oh, Easter. Well, that's Easter. Easter is about gratefulness.
Well, you said Thanksgiving.
Okay, everybody. I have no clue what day we are.
Okay, and let's keep
great
this
way
a little
to
bit.
start it.
Okay, let's keep this a little bit brief for everybody too, so we can get for everybody.
Okay, so to me, it's just about gratefulness. It's being grateful for everything that I have, no matter what shows up. It's there to teach me something, and find the gift in whatever it is. That's, to me, Thanksgiving.
Or Easter.
Easter.
She wants it to be fall.
I want to be fall today. Okay, you better mute me.
Okay.
All right, and Andrew?
Yeah, for me, it's, I guess, rebirth, because of springtime. Easter comes in the springtime. It's when things grow. It's a new beginning. So that's my thoughts.
Beautiful.
Suzanne? Whoop, you're muted. There you go.
Well, I love Jesus a lot, and so I really appreciate Easter because it reminds me that he's always around for me to talk to.
That's beautiful. Anyone else?
Anne?
Me, it's a time for connection with family and other people, and right now the connectedness, and I love that. And my tennis group is all wishing each other. We can't play tennis, but at least we're connecting again. And I talked with my son this morning, and especially right now with all of this, it feels good to connect again. So thank you for this.
Beautiful. You're welcome.
Yeah, it's Bonnie. I'd like to say that to me, Easter is a time of celebration. It's just joy because of the flowers and the new life, and everyone seems to be thrilled to be alive, you know. And I'm certainly this year, that's for sure for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm glad to be with all of you. Truly. So happy Easter.
And happy Thanksgiving.
Yes. All right, Harris.
Every day can be Thanksgiving.
That's right.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Mary, what you got?
Today is Easter in my house, although I am giving thanks for it. I started out by getting making a huge batch from scratch of stuffing. And today I have a little turkey breast and one turkey thigh. And I'm going to stuff the stuffing all the way around it and bake it. And then I got all these goodies to go with it. So to me, it's singing, giving thanks through songs and cooking. So that's what I'm doing. And being here, being connected. This is so awesome that we're coming together this morning like this. I can't thank you enough, even though I did spill all of my communion wine down the front of me just as I brought it in here. Fortunately, there was more.
We're going to do communion towards the end, everybody. So get your wine ready. Gary's got to open it. I couldn't open it, so we'll do that. Thank you. Oh, baptism in wine.
I don't have any wine.
Okay, well, you can get juice.
Yeah, Rudy drank all that was in the house because he's out of beer and now he's out of wine. So no alcohol here.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, who else would like to share? Thank you, Mary. That's great. Anyone else want to share?
I wanted to say one more thing real quick. Now that I'm sitting out here, the feeling that I'm getting of this Easter day, because I was just kind of tapping into it, because of the resurrection, to me, it feels like the transformation of, and even look at what's happening in our world today, our transformation that we're going to. It's just such a perfect feeling of Easter today with all this transforming that we're doing. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I want, is anybody else want to share or? Okay. All right. Then what I would like to do is, Julie, let me go ahead and unmute you. Oh, well, you're going to have to do it. I don't know if it's going to let me. Let me try. We're on the side here. Yeah, it's
okay. It says I am unmuted.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Great. Great. Well, everybody, I just want you to meet Julie Ann. Is it Dyle? Is that how you say your last name?
Yes.
Okay. Julie Ann Dyle. And she is from Northern Michigan. She's also a fellow Michigander. And that's where I'm originally from. I live in the Nashville, Tennessee area now. Moved down here in 1979, but I still have a lot of family up in that area, and from Bowen City to Traverse City and all around that area. So I just am so glad that you are here. And Julie wrote me and she said, I just would love for us to talk about forgiveness, because today I think it's such a huge, huge part of our healing as we are asked to go inside and pause. And this is just the most perfect time for us to forgive. It's part of our transformation. It's part of our rebirth, which is what this day to me means. And I just think it's perfect for you to be here today, Julie. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about what it is that you're working on and a little bit about the science behind behind forgiveness.
One of the things that I find interesting is that I absolutely am a fan of gratitude. And I think everybody is on board with the fact that all of the science is out there, that gratitude is just so awesome. It raises your vibration. It gets you in touch with, the divine within you. And you see that we live in a world of total abundance, and we can be so grateful for everything if we look around. And now they are showing that when they draw blood or analyze people's body chemistry and neurocircuitry and all of the neurobiology and everything that's going on with heart math and the heart and the brain. They're seeing that gratitude is so amazing, and nobody can deny it. The proof is everywhere. And at the same time, I think forgiveness doesn't get as much press for some unusual reason, but I think it's because maybe we've been conditioned to think it's hard to do, or maybe we have the wrong definition of it, or an erroneous definition. And if we all knew how cool it is and how awesome it is, it's a door that really opens 1,000 doors to happiness. And now, you know, the science is showing that when you forgive, it changes your body chemistry instantly in your brain. When they do PET scans and analyze brains, the brains change, the body changes, the chemistry changes. So it mattered to me to really dive deep in this. And I'm a big fan also of journaling, meaning expressive writing, and what they're now calling narrative medicine, where you can write your story or write out how you feel or write a letter to somebody that you probably would not send it to. And to be able to offload this huge amount of energy that the body was never meant to carry. And if you carry the negative energy, it can result in illness. So they're finding, if you want it, the way to heal is to forgive. And I just find that absolutely awesome. And it can be easy and it can be fun, and that's what I'm all about.
Beautiful. And you put together 10 steps on forgiveness. Do you want to go ahead and just start sharing? And we might not get through all of these today, everybody. We'll try and get through as much as possible. If we need to carry it over for tomorrow, we can do that. So we'll, if Julie's available or whenever she's available, we can always do a part 2. But we'll try and get through as much as quickly as we can.
One of the books that I had studied is from Dr. Fred Luskin, and he's a director of the Stanford Forgiveness Project. And that was being done years ago when he took his scientists and the people with him to Ireland to help the difficulties that were extreme, apparently, between the Irish Protestants and the Irish Catholics. And so many of them on both sides of the equation were carrying so much hurt after decades. And he went in and did this forgiveness, these steps to forgiveness, and they found that the people healed and so much of the area healed, and it was absolutely wonderful. So it was one of the first studies that was ever done on a large scale on forgiveness, especially when the wounding was so massively deep and had gone on for generations. So he says, here are 10 ways to set yourself free and to lighten the load. One is to examine how you feel and be able to articulate what is it about the situation that's not okay with you. In other words, what's your interpretation that you find so difficult? And you either, you can like tell your trusted friends or whoever you want, just kind of unload that verbally. Then number 2, journal writing can be the great way to mentally and emotionally and physically unload a significant amount of unhealthy negative energy associated with past hurts. Number 3 was guided imagery that can help you re-script. And the re-scripting is the pivotal piece in order to move from where you are to where you want to be in terms of unloading this and getting healthy or healthier. You re-script your grievance story and you envision emotional freedom as you would understand it. What does it mean to you to unload this massive grief or the hurt or the disappointment or the resentment, and how much better would you feel? So some people are choosing to focus on the physical feeling or visually seeing bitterness and hatred leave from their heart, like escape from their heart. Some people see it as a trap door opening from the bottom of their feet and just letting everything just drain out like into the center of the universe where it gets transmuted by the true light of all that is, or however anybody wants to do it. The other is a loving kindness meditation practiced daily. It's been shown as a profound way to forgive yourself and to extend the forgiveness to others. And probably your listeners all know how they do the may I be filled with love and peace, may you be filled with love and peace, and then they choose like who would be your enemy. May my neighbor be filled with love and peace, and may all sentient beings be filled with love and peace. And then they go to the next side, the negative side, may I be emptied of all unforgiveness, may you be emptied of all unforgiveness, may my enemy or neighbor or whoever be emptied of all unforgiveness, may all sentient beings everywhere be emptied of all unforgiveness. And they just go back and forth, positive, negative, and do it that way. And apparently it's massively profound. They've found that in Boston with John Kabat-Zinn and all of the people that do mindfulness-based stress reduction. It's been going on for 30 years and it's profound. Number 5, choose to forgive each person individually, since offenses are often perceived as different. So you would say out loud or perhaps in private or write it out on paper, I'm choosing to forgive, say, you know, the lady next door for whatever the offense is. Say she was rude to me, or that made me feel, and you identify your uncomfortable feeling, like she made me feel like I'm a bad person or I'm not a nice person or something. I'm now choosing to be set free, or now I'm choosing to set both of us free, something to that effect. Number 6, make sure you forgive yourself. So one is writing a list of all the other people that you have to forgive, and that can be governments, it can be other countries, people groups, geopolitical parties, relationships, health issues. It could be, you know, absolutely anything. Then you make the list to forgive yourself. You write a list how you have offended others, and you speak your forgiveness out loud or in private with a trusted friend. You'd say, I am choosing to forgive myself for, judging my neighbor, lady next door. And mentally, I ask that person, call it the victim, if you will, for forgiveness. So I would say, I'm choosing to forgive Sally for, I'm choosing to forgive myself for judging Sally, and I mentally ask her for forgiveness. Then you burn both lists, and he's got 9 steps to forgiveness, and he says, amend your grievance story to remind you of your heroic choice to forgive. So when you're writing your story, you make yourself the hero in the fact, whether you were right or wrong or perceived right or wrong in the situation, that I'm making the heroic choice to forgive. So the choice to forgive is what makes you the hero, and that is what is changing your chemistry. Give it a happy ending if possible. Rejoice in the emotional release. Some wise people are ceremoniously dumping the ashes because they burn both lists, and they dump it into like a flower garden or a rose bed, and with the intention of being determined to grow something lovely from the ashes. You rejoice in seeing that your choice to forgive really and literally makes the world a better place. So it's intention and choice. You do it intentionally. I'm intentionally doing this release, this forgiveness, and I'm moving forward. And number 10 is teach your family and others how to release and surrender, not as a victim, but as the one who basks in the joy of victory over the oppression and the negative emotions that can otherwise hold us captive and keep us imprisoned in our own minds and hearts. So you help them focus on healthy choices to get better and not bitter. So that's his basic list.
I love that. And we had comments coming in. I saw a lot of agreement with people. One of the things today, Julie, that I was going to share, I was going to do this outside, but we have thunderstorms today, raining, thunderstorms. And so not able to do it, but I wanted to go through the ceremony with everybody of writing it down. And we can always do that later in the week, even when the weather's nicer. And we can go through a ceremony of, in fact, why don't we think about that? The things that we want to forgive. And I'm going to send out the article to everyone that describes in detail what Julie is talking about here today. And then you can look at that and we can write it down and we can do a ceremony later this week. Is that okay with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, but we do need to be outside, I believe. I've tried to do it in the kitchen before and
The smoke alarms go off.
So I don't do it. I don't even try anymore inside.
When you burn stuff in the kitchen, it's too much like you're cooking.
Well, Paris, yeah, but I forgive me. I remember a time, it's been many years ago, Ferris and I were going to a photo shoot. And Ferris was driving, I was in the passenger seat, and we came up on a light, and the guy in front of us runs the red light, and Ferris is right behind him. And he said, "That asshole just ran the red light." And then I said, "Ferris, so did you." He said, "But that's different." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because I forgive me." And so a lot of times we are, spoken like Ferris, huh? A lot of times we can forgive ourselves or we don't think we need forgiving. And we have a harder time processing the forgiveness for other people. And so I think it's really important to remember when we're going through the forgiveness process to also, you know, open our minds to ourselves. And one of the things that the Ho'oponopono prayer, which Mary put in, several of you have put in, the Ho'oponopono prayer is so key in my life, which I do just about every day. Anybody else do just about every day? And
Yep.
Ho'oponopono, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. 4 phrases, and you can rearrange that. Some people say it differently. To me, that made the most sense than the original way that I read it from the Hawaiian prayer. But that made the most sense. And it also, there's a beautiful song on YouTube that Lorelei refers to a lot, that that she sings the Ho'oponopono prayer, and it's just beautiful. So that's yet another way that you can forgive. Let's look at some of the other comments that we hear. Let's see. Michelle says, I love Jesus. I am no longer into religion. I agree with you. She's from Grand Rapids, near where my sister lives in Big Rapids. And she is now in Cookville. And forgiveness sets us free. And I so believe that. And, you know, to me, Christ consciousness, that's Christ consciousness. Forgiveness, gratitude, love, that is Christ consciousness. And I think all of us live in Christ consciousness. So am I right in assuming that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And okay, the Ho'oponopono, Mary was talking about that. Let's see here. Oh, what is the name of the book that you were referring to from Dr. Lusky?
And by the way, we just noticed that he had some nice things on YouTube. His name is Dr. Frederick Luskin, Luskin, and the book is called Forgive for Good.
Forgive for Good. Okay.
Right, and the subtitle is Practicing Forgiveness Leads to Healthy Relationships as well as Physical Health. It also influences our attitude, which opens the heart to kindness, beauty, and love.
Okay, beautiful. So let me see what other comments we have. Let's see here. Yeah, transforming from the darkness into love and light. And I so agree. You know, it took me many years to reach forgiveness with my mom because I felt abandoned. many of you have stories, you know, we all have stories like this, but mine was, I got pregnant at 16, came home from school. My mom she planned a wedding for me. And so I only had two choices at that time, either to go to the nunnery, being taken away from my family and given the baby away, or to get married. And at 16, you know, what am I going to do? How can I stay with my family is what I was thinking. So, so I chose the marriage part. I said, well, I guess then I have to get married. And I come home and there's a wedding planned. And then after a year after I got married, you know, I had my daughter. And then about a year later, I realized, you know, very bad abusive situation, and I had to get out of there. And once I said I was going to get a divorce, my mom wouldn't have anything to do with me anymore. And at the time, I didn't understand the why. I took it very personally, as we all do. For years, we were estranged. For many years, we were, you know, I was a last class citizen, not even a second class. I was the last on her list to be considered. And I was truly the black sheep of the family. And I worked hard. I was successful on my own. She said, I made my bed. I had to, you know, live it. That she was my daughter was my mistake. And I spent many years thinking of my daughter as my mistake, and that I had to take care of her. And so there were so many things that were going on in my life. And then many years later, my mom hurt me all the time. You know, like I said, even when I needed her, she wasn't there. And finally one day I just said, Mom, I'm putting you in a box where you can no longer hurt me. And I will only come in and talk to you in that box. Because if you come out and I let you into my world, you're going to hurt me. And so in this box, we can talk. And so I interviewed her and I said, why at 17 years old, did you abandon me? Did you have nothing to do with me? And you wouldn't help me out, not even when I couldn't put food on the table, when I was homeless. Why weren't you there? And she said, I had 6 kids, Cindy, and I was afraid I was going to end up raising yet another one. And I didn't know who Elaine was. I didn't have an identity. I didn't know how I thought about things. I never got to have a mind of my own. And it was through my own fear that I stepped away from you. And once I understood it was never about me, it was always about my mom, the forgiveness came easily. So sometimes we have to talk to the people in our lives that have hurt us the most and find out the why. And that's what I did with my mom. And we got to a place where our relationship was all about our belief systems. She was very Catholic. I'm very spiritual. And we talked about our differences, and our relationship formed around that. We couldn't go back to be mother-daughter, but we could do something else, and we transformed it through forgiveness into something really nice. And though I didn't get to know her personally, we did have that. And so that's so important to me. And I think about all the things that she taught me. Even in death, she taught me so much. So, what in our own relationships can we look to and understand and discover where there's really nothing to forgive? I mean, I really realized there was really nothing for me to forgive with my mom. Once I understood, she just never told me. And it was always, we take things personally. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Does anybody
really does.
have any? Yeah, and I would love to hear from anybody else. Julie, do you have anything that you want to add to that?
I do. I have a sense that your listeners and Soul Gang could be acquainted with the Course in Miracles.
Very.
And one of the statements which says, I will forgive so I can be happy. One says, forgiveness is the key to my happiness. And then my favorite says, I will forgive and this will disappear.
I think about my mom and witnessed her unforgiveness throughout her life of my dad's mom. They clashed big time, and his oldest sister, my dad's oldest sister, and they clashed in a big way. And about a month before Mom passed, she finally forgave me and let it go. And when she let that go, it made it easier for me to let go. Though every now and then it crops up, it does. There are elements that will crop up, and then it's write it down, release it, and let it go. And that's why I think that the burning ceremony is so key. If those things crop up again, one of the things that you said, Julie, that we should immediately go to forgiveness, and I have to disagree with that, because I think that forgiveness is a process, and that's one of the things that, and I don't know Luskin's work, so I don't know if he goes through this, but one of the things that I found is that I've got to feel it. I've got to feel it, I've got to process it, and then I can get to forgiveness. And whenever I've tried to forgive real fast, it buries it. And dis-ease becomes disease. And Harvard Medical did a whole study on what happens when you bury your emotions. And when we push all that stuff down inside and we don't express it, it becomes cancer. And many people create cancer within, or heart disease, or high blood pressure. And so expressing it gets it out of the cells of the body, and then we can get to forgiveness, and then it is a whole health forgiveness. Does that resonate with you?
It not only does it, you are exactly correct with the science. And one of the beauties of expressive writing, what they call narrative medicine, is even if you grab a pen at the moment that you're triggered, which is what I'm training myself to do, even if it's on the back of an envelope that I'm ready to recycle, I'll just start, they tell you just like write a list. I call it writing out the storm, which is how you ride out the storm. And there's a doctor who's brilliant in Detroit named Howard Schubiner. And he has written a book on how to unlearn your pain, how to rewire your brain to unlearn your pain or your anxiety and your depression. And they call it a discharge pathway. And what they're noticing is, as scientists and doctors that are in that realm, the body was never meant to hold on to this. We were all meant to be like what the Chinese call an open window, where it just, the Zen concept, it just zooms in, you feel it, and it goes out. Just like air moving from one side of your house, if you open a door and a window, it just blows right through. Go ahead, notice it, acknowledge it, give it all it needs, give the child a voice, whatever it needs to be done, you do. And then it has to be released, because exactly what you said, the body holds on to it, and then that's where the blockage is. So what they're saying is, he calls it the right away program or right away concept, where you just grab a pen, you just start writing down, and you take it from your head and your heart through your hand, through your arm, onto the pen, into the paper, and you watch it. Your brain will watch it release onto the paper. So now you've shown your inner child and your whole physiology, I have moved this from my body onto the paper, and now I can slow it way down. Just like you said, you've got to process the emotion. So it slows it way down when you're writing, when you think it's too fast, and then it jams up the electrical circuits, and that's what's causing the problem. So he said you write it all down, and you write down what's bothering you, and what does this remind you of, and what's really being triggered. When I was a 3-year-old, this is what my mother did, this is what my father did, or whatever. And you really give it all you got if you got the time. If you don't, you just write it out with the intent. I intend to release this from my body. And I give my subconscious mind permission to let it go. Boom, you're done. Burn it. Most of this stuff is for your eyes only, they're saying. It's really never meant for other people to read. And that's why burning is such a wonderful symbolic, way to let everything go and watch the smoke rise. Which
And
is
the
why
other
we have
part
a
of that
very,
is soul contract. We've got to remember, if we have come to this earth with a soul contract to forgive, then we have to, somebody has to love us enough, as Neil Donald Walsh talks about in Conversations with God. We have to love ourselves enough. That person, let me back up. We have to understand that somebody loved us enough to come to the earth to be an asshole for us so that we would have something to forgive. And that was my contract with my mom. We had to have this journey. My mom and dad, they had divorced after 50 years. And when my dad passed a couple of weeks ago, or it's a month ago today. My dad passed a month ago today. When they first appeared to me, Mom and Dad were together, which shocked me. And they said, this was our soul contract to go on this journey together. We always love each other and we always return together. And I'm just like, whoa, just drove it home for me, remind us that we all come into this world with soul contracts. So sometimes that whole journey to get to forgiveness is an important part of fulfilling that soul contract. Does that feel true?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's what's gorgeous is the transformation and the ability to watch your own self. And of course, as we hear it, we all share that with you, because while we may not have had the same exact experience, we've had similar, just changed the names have been changed to protect the innocent. We're all involved in that. And what you're watching and sharing is your sort of step-by-step transformation, because who you were 5 years ago, or whenever you started your energized living today, you are not the same person. You've had so many different experiences. Ferris had so many different experiences. All of your growth, and you could call some things baby steps, but you notice there's all baby steps lead to tremendous new levels of consciousness. So you're ever unfolding, and it's always an upward spiral, no matter what it looks like or feels like some days. And you share that, and since we're all one, you're taking us all up. We're all ascending with you, which is really awesome.
That's another good reason to do this kind of work and to reach this point of understanding. It's not an easy journey, and it can be done. I want to hear from some other folks. Any questions that you have, or comments that you want to make? Any questions for Karen?
Michelle's got a comment.
May I talk for a minute? Hi, this is Michelle from Cookville, originally another Michigander.
Oh, hi, Michelle.
Hi, Cindy. Thank you so much for your work. I so appreciate it. It brought tears to my eyes when you said that you interviewed your mom and the way you made peace with her. Sometimes we have loved ones that are too far gone. I don't know how much everyone knows about psychology, but my mom is a sociopath and a narcissistic personality disorder, and there was never any acceptance of any responsibility on her part for anything. And a lot of gruesome details of what me and my sisters went through, taken out of her custody. I was the only one that didn't get removed from her custody, so it was pretty gruesome. But I've tried to reason and talk to her, but sometimes we just gotta, I've made peace with the fact that in this lifetime, I think she signed up to be the narcissist, and I signed up to, do my work. And I love her from a distance, but I've had to completely estrange, and I think I'm done this lifetime. I've tried multiple times to try to have some sense of understanding, because we're so far removed. I'm about accepting what I've done and forgiving and letting go, but there's no acceptance there. I don't know how many people understand how narcissistic personality and sociopathic brains work, but I do love her, and I've had to forgive, like you said, Cindy, multiple times, and you got to feel it, and there's so many layers. I had managed to repress a lot of trauma, and it started coming up in my 30s, the repressed memories. And so it's been a long process, but I love her dearly. And my one sister estranged from her for 30 years. So you can imagine what was done there. But I think that's beautiful, and it brought tears to my eyes. So I appreciate the work you've done with your mom, Cindy. That's beautiful.
Thank you. And I just want to say, too, that it's okay to say, I love you, goodbye.
Yeah,
I've had to do that with my daughter. She also has mental illness, and she's bipolar, and there's just been a lot of stuff there, but that was her role. That
Right.
She came to teach me so much, and she has, but that doesn't mean I have to let her in my house.
Yes.
And she can't come in my house. Well, she doesn't live near me now. She lives in Colorado, but she had to go there to heal. And I have seen some healing of herself. She said, Mom, I would be dead now if I would have stayed in Nashville.
Wow.
And she now knows she's gotten so much better. Is she perfect? No. She's never going to be. She has a mental illness, and I love her anyway. That's
Right.
what she came to be in my life. She
Right.
came to play that role. So
It seems like almost all of us on this call probably have been through a lot of stuff, and that seems like we go on the deep spiritual plunges. It seems like maybe that's what we signed up for. When you come from a really dark childhood, it seems like we're the ones that go deep. I don't know if that's true with everybody here, but that's been my experience. And most people I know that are doing deep spiritual work started in a real rough place, a real dark place. Thank you, everybody. I love y'all.
I love you too. Thank you so much for sharing, Michelle.
Sorry about your dad too. My heart goes out to you. I don't know what your relationship with him was, but
My dad,
yes.
my dad and I were very close. He lived with Gary and me since 2008.
Okay.
And we were extremely close. And my dad came to live with me because when my mom said, you made your bed, and she wouldn't help me out, and she would really have nothing to do with me. My dad came over one day with a box of groceries, and he came in my house. He sat him on the table, and he went, shh, and he left.
Oh.
And it was that moment I knew he had my back, that he loved me, and he had to do it kind of secretively, so Mom didn't know, but he loved me, and he was always there for not just me, but all 6 of us kids.
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm
Thank
glad
you.
have one parent that
He was a good man.
Oh. Love to everybody. I'll mute now.
Thank you, Michelle.
Love you.
It's good to hear from you.
Who else would like to share? And by the way, Gary, come and say hi, Gary. He just brought my wine, so when we do our communion at the end here.
And all the time Michelle was talking, Cher was going.
There.
Yeah, there he is. Okay.
Hey, Gary.
Hello.
Hi, Gary. Cindy, this is Bernadette.
Hi, Bernadette.
My story, forgiveness for me was my greatest gift to myself. And I will tell you why. My ex-husband started with mental illness. He lost his job, he lost his mind. I had to put him in a mental facility. And when I asked for a pass for him to come out of the facility because our son was graduating, he literally took just a little bit of money we had in our checking account that I had for the bills, and he went out and slept with prostitutes. And since it was our anniversary, then he came back and he slept with me. There was so much betrayal in that I felt that I would never be able to forgive him for it. But what I realized as I started looking inside myself, I started realizing that this is something that I was holding on to that wasn't mine. So what I did is, when he told me that he had cheated all his life on me, I don't know where the strength came from, but it was like I was done carrying it. And I turned to him and I said, well, I forgive you for that. And just those words, they released something in me that whatever else he told me, it couldn't hurt me. And then to take it deeper, when we got our divorce, after that, of course, I filed for divorce. I just, I provided for him up until the time our divorce was final, and I got him his disability through the mental, and he was able to survive on his own after that. But when he was leaving, I lived in Tennessee at the time, or we lived in Tennessee, and he had been ordered back by the judge to go back to New Mexico, where we had a house there. And his family is all there, and my family is all in New Mexico. So he was ordered to go back. And deep in my heart, I had this feeling that I had to say thank you. So I sat down and I wrote him a letter. And I said, I thanked him for all the wonderful things we had in our life. And then I told him, I forgive you. And thank you for setting me free. And then I said, I hope if I did anything to you that you can forgive me. And we ended as friends. He died 6 months later. But it was such a closure. And it was such a gift to myself to know it was done and it couldn't hurt me anymore.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I feel that.
Thank you.
Who else would like to share? Ferris, you want to read some of the comments down there?
No.
Cindy, one more thing.
Too hard.
This is Bernadette again. I did realize that saying I forgive you did not mean that what they did was right.
Yeah.
It just meant that that I was choosing to let it go. I wasn't holding on to this anymore.
Right.
It wasn't my line to hold on to. What they did was their own thing. And I was just choosing to let it go. It wasn't saying I was forgiving them for what they did. For me, that is the difference of forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And let's see, Michelle said, thank you. And Linda, I love this comment and I want to go ahead and share this. Linda says, actually, we need assholes for contrast. And I agree. How would you know what is good if you don't have any contrast? And I agree with that. Sorry about your dad, Cindy. Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, anything else? You see, Michelle, I had to forgive my mom thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times. And I get that.
I like what Suzanne said here.
What is that? I missed.
I need to see it as transforming from darkness to love and light. I can also be grateful for the triggering incident because it shows me what I'm doing unconsciously to others and what I still need to heal within myself. And I want to mention, I think what's really important about what Julie's been talking about is we're not always in a situation where we can understand where the other person or persons are coming from.
True.
They may just be total assholes. Well, some people are, I
Well,
think.
maybe.
Probably not, but
Okay.
that
All
may
right.
be one way we can ever see it.
I just see everybody who isn't in a state of love as they're just misaligned.
Yeah.
You know, they still are that soul of God, and you know, they've either come in with us as a contract to teach us something or to learn their own lessons, but they're just misaligned. It's not that they're any better or worse than anybody else.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and see. Julie, are you still there?
Yep.
Okay, great. Why don't you go ahead and just, do you have anything else that you want to kind of wrap up this conversation with us? This has been
I do.
wonderful
I do.
and healing, and then we're going to do a communion.
Two quick things. One is we came up with an instant, first of all, I agree with Ferris. Some people are, you know, whatever they are, and they're just here to be that. And we've heard it called in ancient traditions a sacred clown. In other words, here is this thing that comes into your, or person, or, you know, thing or experience that comes into your life. And it's actually there as like a clown, where you're supposed to notice this and retrieve whatever information or learning is here for you and then move on. So we call this thing, in experience, we call it a CBD, the conveyor belt of the divine. So this is an instant release technique. So picture you had a backyard that had a lot of space, for example, or you were out in the middle of any kind of like field or something. Picture a gigantic burning pit, like what you see in magazines, where it's got the big circle with the metal around it so nothing can catch on fire, and stones around that. And it has a fire that's always burning. Then next to it, picture a gorgeous, any color you want, Adirondack chair. In the Adirondack chair sits God, the God of your understanding, or whoever you want to be, the higher power. And then picture there's you're standing X amount of space away, and you can make that space anything you want. You can do this literally in an instant. There is a conveyor belt that runs 24/7, 365, past, present, and future. And you can take your past, your present, or your future, anything that comes up in the moment or has been torturing you, or whatever you want to call it, and you can do what you want with it. You could put it in a box, you could ball it up, you could pretend you've got a neat little backpack that's been weighing you down, and you slide the backpack off, and it holds all this trash, head trash, and heart trash in the backpack. And you can just do it any way you want. You can make it fast, you can make it slow, you can make it big, you can make it small, you can make it anything. And you take off the backpack that's been loaded with all this trash, which could be your traumatic childhood. It could be worries of what's going to happen if I give a speech in the future, or what if nobody likes my book, or, you know, what's my health going to be, or, you know, what's going to happen to this world with COVID-19 and toilet paper, or whatever your problems are, or whatever your thoughts, feelings, and emotions. Go ahead and feel them, then package them up any way you want, put them on the conveyor belt. You can hurl them onto the conveyor belt, throw them, set them, kiss them goodbye, whatever you want, set it on the conveyor belt, and it goes down and it passes the God of your understanding, who's sitting in the Adirondack chair, and you say, judge this for me. In other words, I don't have to judge this. You judge it for me. You handle it. And he notices what it is, and he says, yep, We're going to let this go. And right after it passes him, the conveyor belt dumps it in the fire pit, and the thing all goes up in smoke, but the smoke turns into any color you want it, and from the smoke releases bees. Since there is an extinction of the bee population to pollinate everything, it creates healthy bees to go around and pollinate everything in the universe, however you direct it. So you can actually run this clearing in like literally in 3 seconds, and you just go, okay, CBD, you know, put it on the conveyor belt of the divine, and it's gone after you've processed it. And of course, you do the processing any way you want, and you can make the conveyor belt fast, or you can make it slow. So that was one, and if you're interested, I have a little quick one from Marianne Williamson. In her book is called A Course in Weight Loss, and she has a forgiveness prayer that's a couple seconds long, but she has made the statement that forgiveness is like preventative medicine. It cancels out the lie at the center of your fear mind, robbing it of its ability to hurt you. The fear mind jams your personal radar system, disconnecting you from divine mind and leading you toward thoughts and behaviors that destroy your inner peace. So what she has is the prayer to reverse all of this. And it says, "Dear God, please teach me to forgive myself and others. Remove the walls that keep love out, behind which I have become a prisoner. Heal my guilt and remove my anger, that I might be reborn. Make gentle my heart and strong my spirit, and show me how to love. Amen."
Beautiful.
Mm.
And you know, that's just about a perfect prayer to do our communion on, isn't it?
Yep.
I think. Does everyone have their wine or juice or whatever you have? Gary brought me some here. And
Can you put that in the chat or email that prayer to us?
yes.
That would be great.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, Julie, if you email it to me. Are
Okay,
you
I
part of
will.
our Facebook group?
All of this has been on and off because it's almost torture to be on the internet. Can you believe it? I mean, I love the connection. I love the real connection. The internet connection has been a struggle, but this is our sacred clown. We're going to get this one fixed, and we're going to move into the 21st century, and the lockdown is going to pass, and we're all going to be new people because of it.
Yes.
But I will. I will. Do you want me to try putting it on Facebook, or should I just email you?
We've got our group, Energized Living Today group, and that's where
Mhm.
we ask everybody to post it. Or you can send it to me, and I'll go ahead and post it along with your article.
That'll be the easy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So either way you want to do it, Julie, it's great.
And
I want to
Okay,
thank
thank
you
you.
so much for being here today, for sharing so much with everybody. And what were you going to say, Ferris?
I just love, well, first of all, the sacred clown is great. But I also love judge this for me. That way I don't have to. And put my...
Yeah, and you know, Ferris, that
Put my
is the
stuff-
Course in Miracles. It says, you know, take this from me. Set me free from the chains of my past, present, and future. Judge it for me. So, because I know when you judge it for me, I'm done. I have moved it. It's an energy. The energy transfer is now complete.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't put my stuff into it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Well,
You're welcome.
everybody, let's thank you so much. Let's all thank Julie. And
we've had a couple of people mention, and they're not on Facebook. I will put it in the email.
okay.
And we thank Cindy and Ferris for taking their Sunday and so graciously opening their hearts and lives and being so generous with their time and everything. And the soul family, the soul gang is a family, and we share with one another because we're all one.
Thank you.
We really appreciate it.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you. We love our soul gang, our soul family. This is our family of choice. And, you know, as we come together, we share our love, we share our pain, we share our gratitude and our forgiveness. We share so many deep emotions that we don't always get to share with our family. And for that, I am grateful. And for me, communion is about communing. And so this is to all of you. I love you so much. I appreciate all the years. And Julie, by the way, we've been on the air since, Ferris, was it 2010? I think we started? Yeah, so for about 10 years.
I thought it was 12.
No,
it's 10. You're right.
Yeah, so it was earlier than that. Anyways, the fall of 10.
Yeah.
So anyways, it's been a long time. Many of you have been with us the whole time. I know Anne has. And I just want to say I love you and thank you. And I love communing with all of you. And your bread.
And by the way, if Jesus had had coffee, that whole thing would be different.
And ending with humor. What a great way. Ferris, you want to unmute everybody?
All righty.
Everybody say thank you to Julie for joining us today. It was, oh man, this was so beautiful and healing.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
Hey,
Thank you, everybody, for
Easter
sharing today
Cadet.
with us.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
For sharing
Bye.
your story, and I want to thank all of you for sharing your Easter morning with us. Yes.
Happy Easter, everybody.
Good food.
Easter, happy day.
Beautiful day.
Love you all.